After I started that email yesterday or the day before, I began to wonder what a design solution, some sort of an acceptable design solution to have this outswinging door mounted this way might look like. And so I wanted to explore that on my own, so I did. And I'm going to just share these results with you in the event that, and I will show you this triple sliding or triple folding door as well. But in the event that you still want this outswinging door, I think this is going to be an acceptable solution that would be, I don't know if we have to run it by the engineer or whether we can just apply for this and see if they object and then run it by an engineer. But I'm 100% confident now in this particular approach to trying to do this. Again, this was already done, so it's just being shown to you in the event you want this. But what the solution consists of, and I'm 100% confident in it, is to support first of all, cut the wall back at 3.5 as original. Cut that back, the brick back at 3.5, support that lintel. Then you need a 1/4 inch steel plate at the bottom, this size, 3.25 by 4.5. And that gets mounted with a couple Simpson anchors to the foundation wall down there. And then this piece of tubular steel shown in orange continues up to the bottom of the lintel. And you have to have somebody come in and field weld that piece of steel to the plate at the bottom and to the lintel at the top. And then once that is done, these are 2 long Simpson screws just at the top, a couple of them, to stop that from wanting to come out this way. And then once that is in place, this trimmer here, this 2x4 trimmer, is replaced with a wide 8.5 inch wide that comes and is notched down and over and goes against this here, and then it's just firmly nailed into this. And this is built, actually this turns out that this is built as a buck all the way around here with a top piece and 2 side pieces. So I'm not worried about that going anywhere once that buck's constructed. You'll see it here in a minute. I'm not worried about that going anywhere. Flat out not worried about it. And I don't even know if they would require an engineer's stamp on this detail. But you can see it here up close. There's the tubular steel. There's the Simpson anchors, 3/8 by 10 that go all the way into this here. There in the blue hatched is the steel plate at the bottom with its 2 Simpson anchors going down into the foundation wall. And then finally, there's a little spacer block here, whatever that works out to, about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, just to keep that thing so that you can tighten those bolts up tight. And then once that's done, that new treated trimmer buck, because it does go all the way around, and so this solution does require us to lose 1.5 inches or so at the top of the door, on the height of the door. So it requires drywall work inside. And then the only other part of this that could be a problem, I'll come back to that actually, no, I'll just talk about it right now. The only other part of this that could be a problem, notice this screw, this is their 3-inch installation screw, and that would have to be held to 2.5 inches. And they make this 3 presumably go through the first trimmer and then into the second one, into the king stud behind it. But if this is southern pine here, I think that the 2.5 would be more than enough to hold that. Otherwise, these are pre-measured, and this tubular steel is drilled to allow them to pass on through. But it still doesn't matter. You're still just going to have 1.5 inches in wood. But that is what they say in their instruction that they want embedded, at least at the head screws as well, which is why they want screws coming up through this head. And I don't know if it has to do with this. I think it has to do with the installation bolt, the hardware that holds this door closed. But they want you to go up through the head too and come into wood 1.5 inches. And that's why I'm showing this constructed as a buck. And now you see it. There's the blue plate. That blue is the blue 1/4 inch steel. It doesn't really have to be 1/4 inch, but it's 1/4 inch with welds along a couple sides. And then the same thing at the top at the lintel. And you can see this is where the door comes in toward the east. This is on the side toward the east. So that stud is removed. That trimmer stud is removed and replaced. That'll be treated just because it's going to be southern pine. So then you have this situation here. Here's the red is the tubular steel going up and holding that lintel across. And I'm showing that vertical and the rest of it eventually in treated, but it doesn't need to be treated. It should just be southern yellow pine, which you can get these 2x10s or whatever those are, 8.5 inches. So those are constructed of 2x10s, southern pine going around there. The lintel, or that steel, will actually have to go back some because that lintel will be set back like that behind the brick. And then at the top, the plans show this as a 2x10, as two 2x10s. So that may be left in place inside. I'm showing a change because originally I thought that was going to have to go to 2x12s. But two 2x10s will do it for that ridge beam bearing that's coming down through here. And yeah, we can just ignore that because that's not going to have to happen. And yeah, there's those two little, I mean those are fine though. Those may as well be put in. The next issue that came up in my mind with regard to this solution is the bearing length for that lintel on the combination of steel and masonry, and that probably should have 6 inches of bearing. Currently we're cutting out 3.5, and so that's going to cut it to 2.5. We're adding 1.5 inches back in, so that means we're going to have 4 inches of bearing, which is presumably not enough according to the manufacturers of these lintels and presumably the code. I didn't look the code up yet, but when you read up on what's happening with these lintels and these masonry walls, the arching action means that the only load, if you shore that while your masonry dries, while your brick is being laid, if that lintel is shored through the process, then the only loads that are going to be imposed on it are within this triangle, and everything else can be ignored. And there's no other loads but the dead weight of that brick, so there's no floor or roof loads coming on there. And the area of this, the total weight of that is about 10 square feet, so 400 pounds net with 200 to each end and 132 dead center. And then so 132 pounds a lineal foot, right, and that's right in the center, and that decreases going out to the ends. And when you look up this lintel that should be in there, that was shown on the building plans, 4 by 3.5 by 1/4, that is capable of 341 pounds, carrying 341 pounds per lineal foot. So again, this does not dissuade me, this lack of the 6-inch masonry bearing and replacing that with 1.5 inches of steel plus whatever's left of the masonry. That doesn't, I don't think that is a reason for disqualification. So if this ends up being something that's pursued, let me know, and I will get this in front of a real engineer and tell us if we are wrong, or if I am wrong or right on that. But I don't have a problem with this at all, and I would stand behind that 100%. Now I'll show you, I did make some finished photos. I modeled those triple sliding or triple folding doors for you to see, and I'll show you some of that. Yeah, there's that screw analysis where it looks like max would be 2.5 into the, this length is 2.5. They show these as number 10 by 3 or number 12 by 3 or something like that. And here are these doors from overhead. I didn't bother showing them folding out, but these are the ones that are folding in. And that, I think that's my best guess there. I mean, maybe they come in, that's 21 inches, so I can't imagine they come in more than 23. When I built this model, though, I built it for an outswinging door, so it's not completely correct. But I can't imagine that's off very much. And it just comes over and closes. So this is the one with the full lights without the divisions across like the pantry door. And I get away from this whole thing here, this little stoop coming out here, because that's not going to be necessary. This is still showing it with that built-out casing for an outswinging hinged door. Anyway, I don't know if you can even pick it up in these photos, but this shows you getting away from that, where this casing should be run all the way down to this floor. I think this is going to look better, and then have the base die against it, and just have that as a piece of flat 1x, whether in AZEK or some other material, with no profile on it. And I think that will look best. We don't need some big presentation like that. So hopefully That's how that's done at the end. And then these are those triple, the divided. And what I found out is on these, what they call Anderson's big doors, these are also 2 1/4 thick instead of the normal 1 3/4 like these are. But they don't make these crossbars, these muntins, any wider than 2 1/4. So that's what I'm showing here, and I show it divided in 3 with 2 1/4 inch because that's all they make for that. They don't make that 3 1/2 that they made for the outswing door. But there it is opening up. And it really is not, as you can see, it's not too intrusive into the kitchen. This was just me figuring that out. And I think that's about it. Oh, you know, I do want to show you something else. First of all, I assume that existing patio, because its slope is going away. I don't know if you're going to endeavor to get another one in there, although without a door, I'm not sure why. So let me know if that whole patio is going away so that that can just be known. But at the foundation level, one of the things I was concerned about going in was the warmth in this room. And this, we can insulate all this. But what I'm showing right now, just to accomplish the whole thing, particularly once you went out here, and we're able to get 2 foot of insulation vertical and horizontal here and here and here, I show, particularly if this demolition of this concrete's happening over here, I show them cutting off about 32 inches of this here so that they can at least get the horizontal insulation in. Whether they want to come in here with a little bucket and bring some of this earth or whatever, that I don't know if they can do that. I don't know what would be involved in trying to get some vertical insulation down that wall. And I only say that because unless you tell me otherwise, I will be showing this insulation around here just so that, you know, this room is usable for a longer period of time, or is, you know, viable through the winter. And that's all for this film. I really just had put that together, and so I wanted to show it. So let me know. I guess it's going to come down to, I don't know how much those triple fold doors are going to be compared to an outswing door, but I know the steel involved in this is going to be less than $500. I'm surprised though, each of those verticals is a couple $100, maybe $250 a piece, each of those vertical pieces. But there's less than $600 in the material involved in this. But the in-swinging door, you'll be able to just put in that opening without, because you're going to be able to go up into the head. So yeah, the one that goes in, the one that I showed a little diagram of, you'll be able to install that without touching this opening. So the price difference would have to be pretty substantial, particularly since we do not have to replace that header in there anyway. Alright, that's it. I only pursued that to see if it was doable. I think it is, but depending on which door you use, let me know, and so I know what to show on the plans. I don't know if you want to run those 2 door bids by, or run those 2 different door alternatives by Reckworth for a quote to see what the delta is on that, particularly if you still prefer the outswinging door, because you're going to have a mason in there doing all sorts of stuff anyway, and maybe CJ knows a welder that'll come in there and just tack weld that 2 or 3 places and be done. But that's it. I will talk to you soon, I'm sure. Thank you.